Friends, gold has gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere, and prices keep climbing. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident. Whether you're looking for a gold IRA or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance from a team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Noble Gold, helping you build a stronger future. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Tuesday, October 28, 2025. We're going out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube, and of course in a live chat. Thank you to my wonderful wife, who's right there behind the camera here and in the live chat as Inspired, and everyone else for your beautiful support. You know, we're coming with some extraordinarily beautiful news today. Like, you know, this is probably the excitement of our time, partially what we're going to talk about today. And then of course with some other news that I wouldn't, you know, they are what they are. But it's so important that we discuss this because many people are struggling with this. It's challenging. It's close to home, and we've talked about this before, but you know, we know that one of the most powerful things that communities can do while going through transformational times is to continue to talk. You know, the worst thing that can happen is that we ignore everything. That's never good. So what I'm talking about is for those of you who are either observing mainstream society, if you will. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way, just your average person out there. You are seeing probably the same things that we're seeing. You know, in recent weeks, especially since we're out here on the farm, our visits to town are very well calculated and planned. They're planned out. We have a few stops, and then we get out of there again. And so, every now and then I'll sit in a parking lot for 20-30 minutes. And all I'm doing is observing people that get out of their cars, get into the store, come back out. And never before in my life have I ever seen this many disabled, sick, lifeless, life forceless people. It does sadden me to see this and to say this, but it is also something that we have both predicted and expected because of the choices that people have made. So we're witnessing in real time a mass extinction event. And, people always think about floods, fires, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, sort of impact events that where you can go, it happened, it took a few hours, and afterwards, millions and millions of people were gone. Sort of that's the idea of a cataclysm in most people's minds. The silent cataclysm, the slow cataclysm is what we're actually living through. And it's not necessarily a natural cataclysm, it's an engineered one, but it took everyone's consent and participation. And it has not only caused physical disabilities, it is not only, I mean, just the way that young people are moving, it literally, I'm like, where am I? It's a zombified movement. Their bodies are deformed. Young people, I'm not talking about elderly, I'm talking about the 20-year-olds. Their bodies are deformed, they can't properly walk, their coordination is off, their gaze is weird. And we know the many reasons, the plethora of reasons. We also know some of the big ones, and you know them too. But here we are, it's now a full blown reality in our world. And nobody really likes to say this, but there's a large number of people that are simply lost. Like they might still be here, but they're lost. It is what it is. Like, right. And not, I'm not talking about those who have an awareness about their situation, who actually know they have awakened to their situation, awakened to their choices, and are making changes. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about those who continue to be fully programmed. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because it was their sovereignty to make those choices, and it is our sovereignty to accept those choices and stop sort of worrying about it, or trying to save people that do not want to be saved, or just try in general. There's a much more important thing to do, and this is where it gets to the really good part. Is our best days, your best days, literally are here. They are arriving as we speak, or have arrived in some cases and instances. And we are called. This is what every crisis has made. Every crisis has sort of, iron is forged in fire. And so every crisis, every symbolic or real fire is forging the people, if you will, that lead the way. And again, not in an egotistical way, on a energetic, on a consciousness level. And so, it's been my download, if you want to call it that, for years now. And it's imprinted on my heart to constantly and regularly talk about this and remind people that your time to thrive on all levels has arrived. And don't exclude any level, especially not the financial one. So many people are so caught up in the old beliefs about finances, about abundance, about means. So I'll give it to you straight. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to blow new age powder up your ass. The truth is, one of your main focuses, either on the energetic intentional level or on the actional level, or both preferably, should probably be during this times to create financial independence. The answer is or the reason is very simple. It's like, there isn't a crisis in history or a transformational time, of course, any time, but especially a transformational time, where having financial freedom wasn't a huge advantage. The thing is, financially independent people always have more choices than those who are not financially independent. It's just a truth of our time, of our world that we live in. We might not like the fact how that works with money. On a spiritual level, it might be like primitive to us, and it is. Like the way that money works today, it's primitive to anyone who has experienced sort of other ways. But here we are. This is still the dominant way. So, release your judgment and welcome abundance into your life, and whatever that requires. And in most cases, it's a transformation of old beliefs. I've met plenty of people in my life, including myself, in situations where they wanted more abundance. I've never met someone who wanted less abundance. Like, I've never met someone who says, I've been financially free for about 10 years now. I really want to be limited now. Like, I really want to not have any of it. It doesn't happen, you know? And the whatever resistance is there, now is a good time to deal with it, because and others disagree with me vehemently. The Ascension crowd and the Love and Light Brigade, they disagree with me vehemently because in their mind everything's going to change overnight and money's not going to be a thing anymore. There's not a fucking chance in hell that money's not going to be a thing in our lifetime. It will change dramatically. The means of exchange, it will change, and the financial system will change, but it not being a thing, that's not going to happen, not for a long time. And frankly, getting rid of any means of exchange isn't really a feasible idea. Bartering is only feasible when you have, let's say, a neighbor that you exactly know, they provide what you need, you provide what they need. That works great. But as soon as you have distance or various interests and needs, it gets complicated without a medium of exchange. But that is just one aspect. Abundance is, and it's an important one. And I would say that the uh, the people that live, in this world right now, that are way showers, that are, that shine their light, that are the lighthouses, if you will. Um, almost all of them have experienced a lot of hardship, and that's about to change. For some, it has already started. For others, it has started a few years ago, but that's about to change. But like I've been saying, only if you choose the change. The change can't force itself on you. You have to choose it, but there's an energy window, and it's basically saying, listen, um, those hardships are now over. You are most effective now in a thriving position, because the the game is changing. We are moving out of the pure informational age, where as much information as possible is impressed on the people, into making that information and that knowledge now actionable and moving forward. That's the shift that's been happening. So there are people who are stuck in the information paradigm, and they're addicted to the process of consuming information, even if they already know it. Again, I'm not judging that. I'm just saying the cutting edge is moving into completely applying that into actionable things and into the transformation. So this is what the next years and decades are about, is really running with it, if you will. And in our world, in the systems, whether they're mainstream or alternative, abundance and thriving and prosperity are needed for that. So we have been encouraging, Christine and I are working on a new um, program, might be a course. We haven't fully defined the medium itself yet, but it will be the simplest, the most straightforward, the most clear way to unlock that, which is locked in a in a safe, if you will, for many people. Their sense of abundance and being a part of the thriving, flowing life force, their sense has been shut down when they were little, for through education, parents, influences. This idea of prosperity has been, completely shut down and put into a safe, stored deep in their subconscious, and it's been a struggle ever since. And we have been, over many years, Christine has been working with people for many, many years, and it's so much simpler than most people think. The idea that it's also complicated and complex. No, it's really very, very simple, and it all has to do with the essence of everything and the nature of everything. Everything is about that truth. What is the nature of any given thing or any given being? And the nature meaning its true um, original intention, the true original intention for which it was created, or for which the being was created. Like what is the blueprint? What is our true essence? What is the true nature of things? It's going to be so straightforward, and I think the simplicity will blow people's minds, and the pace at which we can unlock that. So that's what we're working on and designing it. And when it's ready, you will hear about it. But it was like a flash. It came like a flash. And when you when you work on something for years and decades, and when you think about it, and when you study it, and when you live it and practice it and try it, trial and error and whatnot, at some point the penny drops, and you hit the nail on the head. And I think this is what's happening. So, in other words, please focus on you, focus on your loved ones, in that particular sense, not in the true meaning of the word, but in that sense, be egotistical. You know, turn off the altruistic meter, just or turn it down a notch. This idea that we need to take care of the whole world, that we need to somehow fix the stupid moronic decisions of people who have no awareness of their stupidity, and continue to make stupid moronic decisions. Let them be sovereign in their decisions. Give them the dignity of your acceptance, because you have no business messing with it anyways. Neither have I. They're sovereign. They can make stupid choices, and they can suffer the consequences of the stupid choices. But please don't get caught up in that game. That's that ship has sailed. there were there were moments, moment after moment after moment, possibility after possibility after possibility to alter the course. And some have made, some are making these ultimate decisions that, there's just not a lot that can be done anymore. And that has to be okay. This is one of the big learning experiences of my life. And this is something that Christine has, literally, like, she's taught me that, and she has repeated that so many times for me. She says, whenever I thought that I can change another adult's mind, or I know better than they do. I know that this choice that I would make is better than their choice, and I have to force them to change their mind. I have to insert myself into it. And she said, and this really what got me. She said, "Well, do you believe in their dignity? Do they have dignity as a sovereign being?" And I said, "Of course they do." I said, "Well, what you're doing is you're taking away their dignity by you putting yourself above them, and lecturing them and telling them how wrong they are and how bad their decisions are, especially when they didn't ask you. You are taking away their dignity." And that was the one thing that I will never forget when she said that to me, because I wasn't aware that that's what was going on. And so, by inserting ourselves in all these things that really do not concern us anymore, we're taking away their dignity and their own choices, and the necessity for the consequences of their choices. So that's that. And that's why I refuse. Honestly, we turn down a lot of requests to participate in things, events, and which are oftentimes built on the premise that we must convince the people. Yeah, good luck with that. Uh, but then, and this is where I want to solely focus on the beautiful part. Through the last years, couple decades, but especially last years, the emergence of awakened spirits. And they beautiful, the beautiful thing is we come in all shapes and forms. It's not like there's a specific uniform to it, or a body shape, or a race, or ethnicity, or nationality. Everywhere. It's everywhere. That's the beauty of it. And what I call the critical mass, which I believe has been reached, it's simply not a number that mathematicians can, or people that are into statistics and probabilities and so forth can actually agree on. But I think the number is much lower than most people think it needs to be. But the critical mass has been reached, meaning there's enough people here on Earth right now that have high enough consciousness and awareness about the essentials. And this is it. Now we've reached this point, and now putting that into action. And I can't tell you what that looks like in your life. I just know the the pieces that it requires. And one of the important pieces is the ability to sustain yourself as much as you can, or be part of a small, tight knit community that can sustain itself. Now that is a number one principle, because what our leadership requires is independence. Like, when you depend on specifically systemic forces, you're not in any position to lead, because then you need to negotiate, right? You need to give in to things, or you need to compromise. And I sure as hell don't want to compromise about anything. Like, I'm the least willing to compromise you'll ever meet. And if somebody tells me life is all about compromises, I say, well, that might be your life, but it sure as hell ain't mine. I don't want to compromise, because I want to live my life on 100%. If compromise means 50 or less, that's doesn't appeal to me. So, and in any area too, right? So that's the first big piece, is to focus on our independence. Part of that is, like I said, material independence. You have the means to either create what you want to create, purchase what you want to purchase, what you might need. And if that isn't here yet, then that should be the first focus, right? It makes sense, doesn't it? Like, most people that reach out to us are looking for communities. Most people are looking for communities where they could live within, or settlements, kins domains, villages, whatever. And what they are looking for is what they share with us. Very rarely do they share what they're willing to bring to the community, what they're able to bring to the community, right? And so let's just say that the majority of people that we know is looking for land and community. Well, in most cases, land will have to be purchased. There are some arrangements, but mostly it will have to be purchased, right? Um, and so if you don't have the means yet, then why not focus on creating that kind of abundance, or aligning with that kind of abundance in your life? Why not put that on top of the bucket list? Uh, and I will say this too: it doesn't matter whether you're 20 or 80. People say it's much easier when you're younger. And I'd say, damn, when you have 80 years of life experience, you know so much more than a 20-year-old. Like, you already know 90% of what not to do. So you can really focus on what to do. And I would say that it's a golden time. Don't listen to the news right now, but it's a golden time. More people than ever are stepping into financial independence. More people than ever in known history, and faster than ever. Now, okay, a lot of them are doing it in an unethical way, but a lot of them are doing it actually in ethical ways, and I think that's wonderful. And for everyone and every situation, the beauty is now there's someone out there talking about it. Like, you want to know, how do I become financially independent at 73? There's probably someone out there talking about exactly that. How do I become financially independent at 73? How do I build something at 77? Whatever the age, or 63 or 29, it doesn't matter. But the things are out there. Um, Trust me, things shift so dramatically with more financial freedom. And it isn't about impressing anyone or buying a fancy car. It's not about that. It's about, hey, I'm if there's a decision out there in society that is putting the symbolic gun to people's heads like they had in 21 and 22, right? Take the thing or lose your job. Where there were many, many people who, single mothers, 3 children, single income, and they felt like they didn't really have a choice. And I don't blame them for thinking that. So now let's let's imagine that that decision, that symbolic gun is put to someone's head who's financially independent and free. They're not gonna ever gonna comply with anything like ever. Why? There's no necessity, right? There's no necessity. So these are the beauty of this moment is that this energy window has opened. And I what I see is this crazy system building itself up, and 2030 being this arbitrary line in the sand that we talked about. But then I also see this sovereign thriving community building itself up faster than ever before. And so please focus on that. If you've been wondering what matters, this matters. Put yourself in a beautiful position. Focus on thriving. Focus on joy. Focus on what it feels like, what that looks like, what that smells like, what that tastes like. What does it taste like? When it's Tuesday morning, and rather than worrying about having 4 or 5 more days of work and getting by and worrying about how you're going to make the month and whatever, imagine what it feels like to just get up whenever you get up and just enjoy the morning. No worries, no fears, no nagging, just a being in the moment. And the reason why I can talk about this with a lot of confidence is because not too many years ago we were homeless, uh sitting in a rusty old truck that was running on hopes and dreams, literally. Nothing to our name, absolutely nothing. And I was as and both Christine and I we were as sure and as uh connected as ever to our possibilities and to the knowing that we're not just going to turn this around but experience the beauty and fullness of life. And it started in that very moment. It started there. It didn't start months and years later. It started there. So that's why I can say it's not like, people say, well, it's easy for you to say, you're sitting in your warm, cozy place there. And, yeah, I am. It is a beautiful, warm, cozy place. But, it was a cold, rusty old truck, that the last possession that was falling apart, to our names a few years ago. So, and so what? So what? So it's an experience, not a pleasant one at times, but it's an experience. But it's shifting. Um, I can't explain it. I've been sharing this with our subscriber community and locals quite a few times. Something has shifted, and something is wanting to happen to you more than ever. I can feel this, and what I have seen in my meditations and spontaneous visions. Usually, when we were walking the woods, um, I saw our community, the inspired community, as millionaires. And I know sounds like such a platitude. Millionaire. What does that mean? It wasn't about the it wasn't about the name. It was about the energy of it. I saw our community being disproportionately abundant on all levels. It's as though something, something had opened and poured over the entire community. And those who were willing to open themselves up to it and receive it were able to receive it. And I can't say that I know how, I just know that it's happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if within the next few years, if somebody were to create statistics, our community, the inspired community, would become the wealthiest one. You know, I don't know why. I'm not saying this because I just want to say it. This is what's been coming to me for years now. Um, just something I wanted to share. But the most important thing besides that was, and it was impressed on my heart too, often remind yourself, and I need to, and remind everyone else that the greatest challenge will be to live your best life while so many live their worst life. And that there is literally nothing you can do about that because they've made their choices and they don't possess the awareness. Those who do will come anyways. But that is the greatest challenge, us living our best life while they're living the worst life and us not feeling bad about it. And it sounds heartless, it sounds egotistical, it sounds elitist, but it's none of those things. You just simply can't help people who don't want to help themselves. No matter how bad they're doing, no matter how bad their situation is, whether they're dying or if they don't want to help themselves, you can't do anything for them. And so this is the greatest learning curve. And Christine and I we're reminding each other of that because we see suffering within our friend circles, within our families, just like you. It's not like we're immune. It's the same thing, and we just have to accept that that's the way it is. And naturally, like most people, some of them simply want us to fix their problems. Like that, they say, "Why don't you fix it for me?" You know, and that's not that's not how it works. You can support someone, you can assist them or help them, but they have to do the heavy lifting. They have to do the work. And so while you are in the process of thriving and others even close to you are in the process of suffering, you have to find a way to sustain your level of consciousness, your joy, your happiness. And people will there are people who will feel very, very, very strongly about what I just said, and that will disagree with me, and that will say that it's inhumane to do that, that we are not a true society if some thrive while others suffer. And I say that that's just not true. When they make the choice that they want to change, none of us will refuse to help. But until people make the choice to help, there's nothing you can do. And this is my learning experience, and I still get opportunities to learn that better and become better at it. But I want to really end this on the most beautiful note possible. The best days, your best days, are here and just beginning. And I mean the best days, not just in financial ways, but in love, in relationships, in spirit, in the beauty that you see in the world, that the world sees in you, in your experiences, in your art, in your creations, in your communications, like all of that. The best is coming. And every single time that you enter a new period in your life that is significantly better than what you had before, you realize I couldn't have even imagined how good this is. And that's what's about to happen. And you are required to invite it, to pull it in, to become it before it arrives, to become like it, and to embody it. No one can do that for you. You can still choose to close yourself off from it, or choose that you being a victim of life means more to you than you being the captain of your life. If you choose to continue to be a victim of your life, then that's just going to pass you by. And in that, you will have to give up all the advantages that come with being a victim. And the advantages are attention, excuses, those are long-term advantages, identity, all those things come with the victimhood mentality. This is how it's always been. This runs in my family. People know that I'm this way. They accept me in this way. They already know how different I am. Yeah, you lose all of that once you become the captain, not the victim. So it's a trait. You give something up to get something. So all in all, I am more excited about today and tomorrow than I've ever been, welcoming it all and not ignoring the the clear challenges ahead as well for the world and for us personally. All right, my friends. I should say this too. Um, on average, this is not me talking. I've shared many, many times with you how it's for me and how it's for us. But one of the most common things that we hear is from people that write to us, and that's hundreds, that since they have been in a high consciousness field, in the FLFE field, and we've talked about it often, everything is everything becomes a little easier. The bad days become better, the better days become better, the good days become better. It's like everything is up leveling. Forgiveness is easier, healing comes easier, sleep comes easier. It's just like just an up leveling of the entire thing. So if you haven't done it yet, and maybe today is the day that you want to give it a try, it's a quantum associated field, that where a high consciousness field is associated with your where you live, your house, your apartment. And it's a quantum technology, Tesla inspired quantum technology, no AI, none of that. um and basically, if you were to start, let's say, your free trial today, within a few minutes that would be activated, you could experience it, and you don't need to give them like your credit card or anything like that. They don't ask for that. It's just a 15-day trial. It's literally just a gift. And you can activate that if you go to highconsciousnessfield.com, click start my free trial, and then reach out to the team. They will talk to you. They'll answer your questions. They'll give you pointers. You'll get access to a portal. You can play with the sliders, and literally, it's like, it's a high consciousness field. You turn your home into a sacred site, literally. Like, that's how it feels, into a temple, and that then becomes your sacred space. All right, my friends. Thank you again for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon. Your environment shapes everything: your thoughts, your health, your energy. But most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.